Mandalorian and Grogu just had a big trailer release. And yes, The Mandalorian and Grogu is the title of this movie. I think it sounds absolutely... I can't believe they're sticking with this.
Oh my goodness, you guys. I just realized I'm watching this trailer for you right now on the official Star Wars channel. It was posted an hour ago, and it doesn't even have 5,000 views. I took a screenshot of it just now recording. I can't believe this.
It's on the Mando and Grogu trailer. They dropped the first new Star Wars trailer in 6 years, and no one cared. And I didn't care. And that to me was like this just gut-wrenching, like stomach-sinking feeling of, I don't really care about Star Wars that much anymore. No one else does.
I don't know how to feel about the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. Part of me wants to be excited about the future of Star Wars and the future of the Mandalorian. And I think part of that is maybe because I was expecting it to look more like a movie, whereas this just looks like season 4 or a continuation of the TV series filmed in essentially the same way, having that same aesthetic. And that's all.
I really wanted to ask you, do you think this time right now, do you think this is like the low point? Like, do you think this is maybe the worst that it's been for as a brand, Star Wars, or you think so?
Yeah. The apathy is real, dude.
Yeah.
No one cares.
The new Mandalorian and Grogu trailer finally dropped, and in all the footage, they have unofficially pretended that everything in Season 2 of the series just never happened. Grogu has fully returned, the N1 Starfighter has been ditched for another Razor Crest, Mando has resumed bounty hunting work, reverted to being an unorthodox Mandalorian again by never removing his helmet, and even the pulse rifle has reappeared. In the surprise...
Is everybody not sick of this baby? Is not everybody sick of Grogu, of Baby Yoda? I get it. All the freaking women were going crazy over how cute he is when he first came out. I get it. But now we've had season 2 and season 3 and appearances in Book of Boba Fett. We've had so much of this character and he's nothing. He doesn't speak. He's a child. He's a baby. And it's paired up with Mandalorian, who also barely ever talks and doesn't have any emotions. You can't even see his face.
Rob, my fear coming into Mandalorian and Grogu is that it is going to look like and feel like just another episode of a show that only people who watch the show are going to go watch in theaters. Nothing else about this felt like it was a movie that was coming. Nothing about this felt like a Star Wars cinematic event. It felt like a glorified episode of the TV show.
Something happened that nobody saw coming. The brand new trailer for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie was supposed to be the biggest Star Wars drop of the year. Fans expected cheers, theories, maybe even record-breaking views. But instead, the internet turned on it. Memes exploded, critics lined up, and within hours, the trailer went from trending for hype to trending for all the wrong reasons.
The next Star Wars movie coming out in theaters will be 6 years, 7 years. 7 years since we had a Star Wars movie by the time we get our next one. And that one is just a glorified episode of a television show. The Mandalorian and Grogu, ladies and gentlemen, is coming in a absolutely confounding decision. Star Wars and Lucasfilm and Disney decided to make the first Star Wars film on the big screen in 6 years.
And at the center of it all, Pedro Pascal, the face behind Din Djarin, who reportedly is absolutely furious at how quickly the celebration spiraled into a roast fest. Think about that for a second. For years, Pedro has been the fan favorite, the guy who brought humanity to a masked bounty hunter, the one Star Wars actor everyone seemed to agree on. Yet now, the same fans who lifted him up are roasting the very project he poured himself into.
But a lot of people are saying very similar things. Why is this even a thing? I feel absolutely nothing. This makes me feel nothing. That's what people are saying about a trailer for the first Star Wars movie to hit theaters in 17 years. Let's get into it. Maybe you'll feel something, even though I don't.
And word is, Pedro's reaction hasn't just been disappointment, it's been fire. Behind the scenes, sources say he's going off in ways that are sending shockwaves through Disney and Lucasfilm. But how did it all unravel so fast? How did a trailer that was supposed to unite Star Wars fans across the galaxy become the target of endless roasting memes, hot takes, and savage comments? And more importantly, why is Pedro Pascal so furious that people inside the industry are whispering about possible clashes with the studio?
That's what's so concerning about it. doesn't sell you on how this is bigger or more spectacular than what we've already gotten. This trailer feels like 3 episodes of The Mandalorian cut together. They dropped a trailer that the vast majority of people went, Mandalorian was really fun 5 years ago, but the excitement has dwindled. This trailer does not look cinematic. It does not look big.
Well, the story starts the moment that trailer dropped. When Lucasfilm finally announced the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, the buzz was electric. Fans had been begging for a big screen continuation of the duo's journey ever since Grogu reunited with Din at the end of Season 2. Rumors swirled about cameos, galaxy-spanning battles, and a darker tone that would make this film stand apart from the Disney Plus series. So when the trailer finally hit YouTube, expectations were through the roof. Within minutes, millions of people clicked play, desperate to see what awaited their favorite unlikely duo. The trailer opened with sweeping shots of distant planets, the Razor Crest soaring through hyperspace, and Grogu sitting proudly at Din's side. For a split second, it felt like classic Star Wars magic. The music swelled, the lightsabers flashed, and it seemed like Lucasfilm had delivered exactly what fans had been waiting for. But then things shifted, subtle at first. The tone of the trailer felt oddly inconsistent. One moment it was dark and gritty, showing Din walking through a ruined battlefield. The next it was lighthearted and goofy, with Grogu cracking jokes that seemed more Pixar than Star Wars. Viewers noticed that the effects looked unfinished, almost rushed, especially in big action sequences. The dialogue didn't help either, with one line in particular, "The galaxy belongs to those who cuddle," sparking instant confusion and laughter. The first wave of comments still carried excitement, but as the hours ticked by, the tide started turning. Fans began pointing out how different the movie felt from the show. Was Disney trying too hard to appeal to kids? Was the tone meant to parody itself? Or worse, was this a sign of executive meddling? What was supposed to be a triumphant reveal now carried a strange aftertaste, and that's when the internet did what the internet does best.
And I look around on the internet today after this trailer was released, and it was like zip. There's barely anyone talking about it, except to point out that I guess this was a really bad idea for a movie.
It started with a few memes on Twitter, people joking that the trailer looked like a Marvel blooper reel, or that Grogu's dialogue sounded like it was written by an AI trained on baby toy commercials. But within hours, the jokes snowballed into full-on roasting. Entire threads roasted the film's CGI, comparing certain shots to early 2000s video games. TikTok edits spliced Grogu's funny lines with clips from Minions, claiming Disney had officially turned Star Wars into a cartoon babysitting service. The roast spread like wildfire. Hashtags like #NotMyMando and #GroguGate started trending worldwide. On Reddit, fan forums filled with long roasts about Disney selling out the franchise, with some users saying the trailer looked more like a toy commercial than a galactic epic. Others called it the rise of Skywalker 2.0, a hollow attempt to cash in on nostalgia without real storytelling. But what made this backlash sting even more was how personal it became. Fans weren't just criticizing the studio, they were calling out Pedro Pascal directly. Memes painted him as the babysitter of the galaxy, roasting his delivery in the trailer's serious moments. Some even resurfaced old interviews where Pedro talked about wanting the movie to be darker and more mature, using those quotes to suggest he'd already lost the creative battle against Disney executives. And while most celebrities are used to online roasting, this was different. This wasn't a fringe group of haters, it was mainstream fans, the very people who had celebrated The Mandalorian as the savior of Star Wars, suddenly turning their lightsabers against it. The online roast didn't just dent the hype, it set the stage for what would come next. Pedro Pascal's fury, and a storm of behind-the-scenes drama that might reshape the movie before it even releases. When the memes first started flooding in, Pedro Pascal stayed silent, at least publicly. That's typical for him. He's known for being professional, measured, someone who lets the work speak for itself. But as the backlash grew, sources close to the production claim Pedro was anything but calm behind the scenes. According to insiders, he felt blindsided by the trailer. He'd spent months hyping the project, telling friends and interviewers that this movie would push the Mandalorian story into bold new territory. Yet what fans saw on screen, Pedro reportedly didn't even recognize. Some of his most intense scenes, moments he had described as emotionally raw, were nowhere to be found in the trailer. Instead, the spotlight was on Grogu's comedic beats and flashy set pieces, things Pedro allegedly never wanted to be the focus. The frustration boiled over. People close to the actor whispered that he vented in private, saying the trailer destroyed the tone of the film. He felt like all the work he and the crew had poured into creating a grounded, darker narrative was reduced to a highlight reel designed to sell toys. And while Pedro has always supported Disney in interviews, this time he reportedly wasn't holding back. Words like furious, betrayed, and even embarrassed began circulating. One rumor claimed that after the trailer dropped, Pedro refused to join a scheduled promotional livestream. Another suggested he fired off heated messages to studio executives, demanding answers about who approved the final cut. While none of this has been officially confirmed, the whispers were loud enough that even industry blogs began picking them up. Fans noticed his silence too. Usually, when a big project of his drops, Pedro shares it proudly across social media. But this time, nothing. No excited tweet, no Instagram post, no late-night TV appearance where he gushed about how proud he was. That silence was deafening. And for fans already skeptical about the trailer, it seemed to confirm their worst fears. That even Pedro Pascal himself wasn't happy with the way the film was being presented. And once the fandom sensed something in the water, the divide only deepened. Star Wars fans are no strangers to division. From The Last Jedi to The Rise of Skywalker, every major release seems to split the fandom in half. But this time, the fault line wasn't just about story choices, it was about trust. On one side, you had fans who were ready to defend Pedro Pascal at all costs. To them, he was the victim of Disney's meddling. They pointed out past interviews where he had lobbied for darker material, claiming he had fought to keep the movie aligned with the gritty tone that made The Mandalorian special. These fans argued that Pedro's alleged silence was proof. He wasn't endorsing the trailer because he didn't agree with how it turned out. They rallied behind him, creating hashtags like #Stand with Pedro, painting him as the last line of defense against corporate meddling. But the other side wasn't buying it. These were the fans who felt betrayed, not just by the studio, but by Pedro himself. They argued that as the star of the film, he should have more control. That if he truly hated the direction, he wouldn't have signed on in the first place. Some accused him of playing the victim, saying he was trying to dodge responsibility for a project that was doomed from the start. Memes roasted him as Pedro Pascal, suggesting he'd cashed in on a paycheck and was now backpedaling when the backlash hit. The debate spiraled out of control. Twitter threads turned into digital battlegrounds, with fans fighting over whether Pedro was the hero of the story or part of the problem. Reddit forums removed certain hashtags just to keep discussions from derailing. Even YouTubers and podcasters, many of whom had once celebrated The Mandalorian, began taking sides, either defending Pedro's integrity or accusing him of failing to deliver. And while fans argued among themselves, Disney executives quietly watched the chaos unfold. Every trending hashtag, every viral meme, every angry post was data, and what they saw made one thing clear. The backlash wasn't going away. It was only growing. But the most dangerous conversations weren't happening in public. They were happening behind closed doors, where whispers of creative clashes, executive meddling, and even last-minute changes to the film's direction began to emerge. And that's where the story takes a darker turn. As the online chaos grew, whispers started trickling out from behind the production curtain. People close to the project hinted that the tension around the Mandalorian and Grogu movie wasn't just about fan reactions. It was about a deeper creative clash that had been simmering for months. According to industry insiders, Pedro Pascal had pushed hard for the film to lean into the darker elements of the Star Wars universe. He reportedly wanted the story to show the psychological toll of bounty hunting, the dangers of raising a child in a galaxy at war, and the sacrifices Din would have to make to keep Grogu safe. For Pedro, this was the perfect opportunity to elevate the character beyond the episodic adventures of the Disney Plus series. He wanted cinematic weight, something that would leave fans stunned. But somewhere along the way, the vision started to shift. Sources suggest that Disney executives, worried about box office performance, stepped in with their own ideas. They wanted the film to be lighter, more comedic, and heavily centered on Grogu's cuteness, the very element that sold mountains of toys and merchandise during the show's run. The result? A compromise that satisfied no one. The movie tried to walk the line between gritty Star Wars drama and family-friendly adventure, but in the trailer, it came across as clumsy and unfocused. This explains why Pedro might have felt so blindsided. He had shot scenes that pushed Din Djarin to his limits, intense, emotional moments meant to show the cracks in the Mandalorian's armor. Yet those scenes didn't appear in the trailer at all. Instead, the preview leaned on Grogu's playful antics and flashy CGI battles. To Pedro, it wasn't just misleading, it was a distortion of the work he thought fans would finally see on the big screen. Rumors even swirled that Pedro had clashed with directors and producers during filming, fighting to preserve the serious tone he envisioned. Some claimed he walked off set more than once. Others hinted that he nearly refused to record ADR lines he felt softened the character too much. While none of this has been confirmed officially, the pattern of whispers painted a picture of a production full of friction. And now, with the trailer's backlash exploding online, those private battles suddenly looked very public. Fans began to connect the dots. If Pedro really did want a darker, more grounded story, then maybe his fury wasn't aimed at the audience at all. Maybe it was aimed at the studio. Maybe the roast wasn't just about bad CGI or corny lines. Maybe it was the symptom of a movie caught in a war between art and profit. But if fans were speculating behind the curtain, the media was doing something far more dangerous, throwing gasoline on the fire. As soon as the backlash started trending, mainstream outlets pounced on the story. What had begun as a few memes and hot takes quickly escalated into headlines designed to stir the pot even further. Pedro Pascal furious as Mandalorian and and Grogu trailer flops, one outlet claimed. Another boldly asked, is Disney destroying Star Wars again? YouTubers, podcasters, and bloggers didn't waste any time either. Reaction videos dissected every frame of the trailer, pointing out inconsistencies, roasting dialogue, and speculating about behind-the-scenes drama. Entire channels made week-long content calendars built around the backlash, each video with titles screaming words like exposed, disaster, or end of the Mandalorian. The more negative the headline, the more clicks it got. Even traditional entertainment reporters joined in, with some citing anonymous sources about Pedro's anger, while others openly wondered if Disney was preparing for damage control. The snowball effect was savage. Even people who hadn't seen the trailer yet knew about the controversy because the coverage itself was impossible to escape. Every platform was echoing the same message. Something was very, very wrong with this movie. What made it worse was how the story turned Pedro into the centerpiece of the controversy. Articles framed him as the angry star, the guy clashing with Disney, the actor who might be sabotaging the promotion by refusing to post about the trailer. Whether true or not, the narrative stuck, and Pedro's reputation, once untouchable, suddenly felt vulnerable. For fans, the media frenzy made the divide even sharper. Supporters doubled down, insisting the press was twisting Pedro's frustration into clickbait. Detractors used the headlines as proof he was difficult to work with. And in the middle of it all, Disney stayed silent, neither confirming nor denying any of the rumors. That silence only fueled more speculation. Was the studio scrambling behind the scenes? Were executives already planning reshoots or edits to fix the movie's image before release? What should have been a straightforward promotional rollout had turned into a PR nightmare. The media had turned the trailer backlash into a circus, and Pedro Pascal was caught in the center ring. But while the headlines made the controversy feel bigger every day, insiders whispered that the real storm hadn't even hit yet. Because behind the glossy articles and viral memes, Disney was quietly preparing to make moves that could change the future of the movie, and maybe even the future of Star Wars itself. By this point, the situation had grown too big for Disney to ignore. Every hour that passed, the backlash spread further, pulling in casual fans, hardcore critics, and even people who didn't normally follow Star Wars news. The Mandalorian and Grogu trailer wasn't just a piece of marketing anymore. It had become a cultural talking point, and that meant executives had to act. According to insiders, emergency meetings were called almost immediately after the trailer dropped. Studio strategists reportedly debated whether to release a second trailer sooner than planned, one that would highlight the darker, more serious elements Pedro Pascal had fought for. The goal was clear: shift the narrative, calm the fanbase, and prove that the movie wasn't just a toy commercial with lightsabers. But there were also whispers of something bigger, potential reshoots. Some sources claimed that Disney was considering bringing Pedro back on set to film additional scenes that would lean into the grittier material fans said they wanted. Others suggested the studio was scrambling to re-edit sequences to change the tone before release. While nothing was confirmed, the very idea of reshoots this close to the movie's release raised eyebrows. Was the backlash strong enough to alter the final product? Meanwhile, Pedro himself became the wild card. Reports hinted that he wasn't backing down. He allegedly told friends he would not play the mascot for a version of the film he didn't believe in. His absence from promotional appearances fueled speculation that he was withholding support until changes were made. For a star of his caliber, that kind of quiet rebellion was risky, but also powerful. Fans, of course, took all of this and ran with it. Rumors about Pedro boycotting press tours spread like wildfire. Some even joked that the actor might leak his own cut of the film, the way Zack Snyder fans demanded the infamous Snyder Cut of Justice League. The idea was absurd, but in the chaos of social media, it didn't seem impossible. At the same time, Disney faced a savage choice. If they leaned too hard into the fan criticism, they risked undermining their own creative team. If they ignored it, they risked turning the movie into a box office disaster before it even premiered. All while Pedro Pascal's silence and alleged fury continued to hang over the project like a shadow. It was clear this wasn't just about a trailer anymore. It was about the future of Star Wars storytelling, the credibility of one of its biggest stars, and the delicate balance between fan expectations and studio control. And as the internet kept watching, the only question left was, who would blink first? So here we are. A trailer that was supposed to unite the fandom has instead split it down the middle. Pedro Pascal, once the unstoppable fan favorite, is now caught in a storm of memes, rumors, and headlines, with whispers that he's furious at how his work has been presented. The studio, meanwhile, is scrambling to control the fallout, with talks of reshoots, re-edits, and marketing pivots swirling in the background. For fans, the situation is both thrilling and terrifying. Thrilling because this drama makes the movie feel bigger than just another Star Wars release. Terrifying because it raises the question no one wanted to ask: what if this really is Disney's biggest misstep yet? But maybe the bigger question is about Pedro himself. Will he stand firm against the studio and fight to protect his vision? Or will the machine of Disney prove too powerful, reshaping the film into something entirely different than what he imagined? One thing is certain: the story isn't over. This trailer backlash has already changed the conversation around The Mandalorian and Grogu, and by the time the film finally hits theaters, it may not even resemble the project that started it all. The internet might have roasted the trailer, but the real heat is only just beginning. And the next move? It could determine the fate of not just a movie, but the entire legacy of Star Wars.